everyone. In this week's video, I'm going to be talking about how do we power up in this three-dimensional world. Hi, my name is Nancy Rebecca with Intuitive Mind, and we are all into this moving from the third dimensional world to the fifth dimensional world. And for some of you, it's like you're all in and this sounds fantastic and hoo-hoo, I'm ready. And for others, they're like, I'm not quite sure how ready I am. And for some of you, it's like, I don't even know what you're talking about in this 3D, 5D world. So first of all, I am a psychic. I work full-time as a psychic, and psychic means the breath of the soul. If you go back and look at the root word for what that means, it means the soul's breath. So it's almost like when I'm doing a psychic reading, it's like the breath of my soul is going to connect with the breath of your soul, and then we're going to exchange intuitive psychic information to help provide information from that higher spiritual perspective. So this is kind of like in the third dimensional world, we're living as a human, and we can't help but live like a human because we are humans. We're in this physical body. We are in this physical material world. So if you think about what's the third dimension, that's all there is to it. Pretty simplified in a nutshell. The fifth dimensional world is that where our higher self, our higher soul has access to that kind of that global information, if you want to put it that way, that higher source information that isn't obstructed by the limitations in the physical world. Sometimes I like to teach my students that you can decide that you want to go to the moon, and you can lay down in the bed and you can imagine that your higher self, your spirit's flying to the moon. You can be there in less than 2 seconds, literally on the moon, having a moon anti-gravity experience. But in a human body, you want to go to the moon, you got to make some pretty good grades in math and science and physics. Then you have to be accepted into the NASA program, which I understand is a rigorous program. Then you have to go through years of training, and then you have to be selected to go up in the space shuttle to go to the moon. And that can take years and years and years. But a spirit, 2 seconds and you can be there on the moon. And I invite anybody to kind of play with that. It's kind of fun. But that's kind of what's happening in this world that we're living in right now. We, in the fifth dimensional world, they move faster. It's not so limited. It's kind of like that happy, joy place. We can see that we are all one of unity consciousness, that we love each other, that there's hope, that our future is going to be more blessed and brighter. We are entering into the golden ages, and yet we're here on this earth. And if you just want to look at what's happened in the last 5 or 6 years at a global level, with wars and banking systems that are really corrupt, political systems that are really corrupt, religious structures that tell you you're going to go to hell if you believe in intuition. I mean, it's this whole world is just heavy, heavy, heavy. And it's been heavier than just these last 5 years. You kind of like think about 5,000 years, go back to the history. I mean, it was really bloody in what happened in the world. It was terrible. And diseases were just millions of people could die in just a matter of months. So I'm not going to depress you with all of this, but this is truly the third dimensional reality that we live in. And the residual is still quite heavy. And so how do we power up when everything that's going on in our life is just so effort-filled and so heavy? And pretending that you're a spiritual being and you don't have a human body, that's not going to work very well either. In all the courses that I teach in the Intuitive Mind programs, we include the body in that process. because your body is a spiritual creation. It's not just a punishment that you were given a human body because you were not good in another lifetime. You have a human body because you were not only good in another lifetime, you were great. And so getting a body is actually a gift. So let me just kind of jump into how do we maintain or uplift and power up in this third dimensional world as a spiritual being. So I made quite a few notes here. So some of the things that can really hold us back are things like fear, the energy of fear, the energy of doubt, second guessing, self-criticism, blame, feeling unworthy, feeling not good enough. Those can be energies that kind of weave through our energy field that almost have these slip knots. If you've ever seen a slip knot, I mean, the purpose of it is if those two ropes get pulled, that knot's going to get tighter and tighter and tighter to secure the line, right? And so energetically, it's quite the same way. We can have these belief systems and patterns. We want to expand into the fifth dimension, but every time we try to do that, that slip knot gets tighter and tighter. And then what do? We kind of sit back and it's like, oh, I give up. I'm fatigued. I feel sick to my stomach. I've got a headache. I can't hardly get out of a chair. Life feels so heavy. I can't handle one more horrible thing that's happening to humanity. I just want to throw in the towel. So all of those things can happen that cause you to want to not rise up, to not try to expand because it seems like that battle inside is just too strong. I can't stress enough about how much we really, really are going through this conscious awakening, this massive shift in vibration and frequency on the earth that's impacting everything, the trees, the earth, it's impacting the planets, the stars. I just read an article where, they can measure the cosmic particles that come from outer space, that come from the universe. But now in 2018, they're finding there's a higher flow of cosmic energy that's coming up out of the earth at the South Pole. And somehow, I don't know how they track this, but they find that the cosmic energy is coming through one end of the earth and it's going all the way through solid matter and it's coming out the other side, and they can actually measure this. We have science that is catching up with what metaphysics has always known. Definitely physics, quantum physics is definitely catching up, and really almost the science is moving beyond what we even know in metaphysics. So that's a super cool thing to see. So I cannot stress enough, we are really going through a change on the earth. When I began teaching 25 years ago, I had to really debate on if I was even going to, using the word intuition, wow, that was super edgy. Saying that you were a spirit having a human experience, oh my gosh, just, shoot me now, because people were going to really freak out. I remember people being kicked out of class because the yoga teacher would say, they would leave the class because the yoga teacher said namaste at the end of class. Namaste is just another language that means the spirit in me sees the spirit in you. I mean, what a beautiful thing. It's like being a psychic. My psychic breath is going to connect with your psychic breath. How beautiful is that? But wow, those words can really trigger people. So 25 years ago, I couldn't even talk about past lives. And now there isn't anybody that doesn't believe in past lives when they come to one of my classrooms. I remember when Spirit told me, Nancy, we want you to call yourself a psychic. And I'm like, no way. I'm not going to call myself a psychic. I want to be thought of as a professional. I want people to respect what I do. And they said, don't worry, Nancy, the rest of the world will catch up with you. And now, if you Google the word psychic, I mean, there's millions upon millions, hundreds of millions of searches for psychics. Becoming the new therapist, I think the New York Times article talked about that. So Spirit was right. The world is catching up with these. So it is a big world and universe awakening process that is happening. So again, how do we power up in a heavy, dense, three-dimensional world? And just because I meditate all the time, or I might do yoga, or I might be a vegetarian, or I might, I don't know, study high-level teachings, does not mean that I have the golden ticket either. Because what has been at a subconscious level inside of you, when the 5D light of your soul illuminates the basement and turns that light on, that's when you're going to have that awareness of what's been hidden in the subconscious and the basement for a long time. It's like, look at all those old paint cans in the corner. We've got to get rid of all those paint cans. Wow, that paint's really toxic. We're going to have to make sure and take it to where they can kind of recycle these toxic chemicals. So it's a process of cleaning out the basement, and cleaning out your own basement, rising to a conscious level, is the same kind of process. I like to use the example of a picnic table. And let's say you're having a garage sale, and you put all these items on the top of this table. You've got this nice tablecloth on it. People come by and they purchase all the things. So I just had this huge truck go by. They purchase everything off the table, and then you climb underneath, raise the tablecloth, you start pulling things out, putting it on top of the table. That's just what your spirit does. Your spirit's like, great job, everyone. You've just cleared out a lot of things you had at a subconscious level. You're feeling bright. You're feeling great. You feel like you're right there on the fifth dimension. But we've got some more things underneath this table we need to put on top so you can start dealing with those. So even if you've been doing spiritual work for a long time, does not mean that you've got a free ticket to ride. Everybody's having to deal with what's been at a subconscious level. So what is the difference of working with power at the third dimension versus working with power at the fifth dimension? When you work with power at the third dimension, you're going to be using other people's power. So it's like, have you ever said, I want to go to this party because everybody's going to be jazzed up and I feel energized, and you just feel like you're just flying high for days after you've gone to this party or this concert? It's because everybody kind of supercharged the energy, and you just got your energy field supercharged. Or you're going to go out and run a marathon, or that's going to kind of supercharge, that's going to kind of get your engine going. You're going to use physical things to help uplift you. Or you're going to be around, you're going to surround yourself with high energy people, even if you have low energy, so that you can maybe kind of get some energy off the tailwind of wherever they're going. Or you are the high energy person, you're surrounded by low energy people because they depend on you to feed them energy. And even kids, it's like kids get a lot of energy from their parents. It's like, make it better, mom, make it better, dad. So we start teaching our children at a very early age where their resource of energy comes from. And we can run out of energy pretty quickly, especially in this day and age, because we are moving to a fifth dimensional way of powering up, of powering and resourcing ourselves. So we have to let go of some of those bad habits or old habits or practiced habits of taking energy from other people or giving other people our energy. So at the fifth dimension, where do you draw energy from? Your higher self. Your higher self is this untapped, unlimited resource of energy that can fuel your third chakra, and it's just an unlimited supply. You have this constant supply. But we are used to functioning in this third dimensional world. So we're used to getting energy from the activities and the people around us. So we've got to kind of turn that habit around and start resourcing from self, is what I call it. Self-nurturing, self-nourishing, self-referring. So you'll hear me talk a lot about this time that we are living in, especially here in this year, which is 2021, is about you becoming your own ultimate authority. You trusting your own inner intuitive instincts. That's what I mean by self-referring. So what that means is you ask your higher self the question, you cultivate hearing the answers from your higher self and resourcing from your own inner authority. I remember what it was like 25 years ago. I talked about selling my house, and I remember getting on the phone with 8 different friends and saying, what do you think? Should I hang on to my house? Is it a good time to sell? I might call several real estate agents. And now I don't do any of that. I talk to my spirit, and if my spirit says, it's going to be time to sell your house, then it's like, what kind of price should I put on it? When should I put it on the market? My spirit might say, well, you got about a year before you need to actually put the sign in the yard. So that's called self-referring from my own spirit, resourcing from my own spirit, and getting my own energy from my own spirit from that 5th dimensional realm. And that it can be really easy for some people, but for some others it can be quite challenging. I think about kids, for example. They can be so light-minded and so light-hearted and so playful. And boy, kids can get things done. They have a thought and they can manifest things really quickly. So we can learn a lot by watching how children work and play with energy. And I think that's what I really want you to get here, is to start being really amused and being very playful. That's playfulness and amusement's a high frequency to start working with to help you resource yourself. So I often say that most of us in our 3rd dimensional world, we think about we need to go to the dentist, we need to go to the doctor, we need to go to work, we need to exercise, we need to eat, we need to read a book, we need to watch our Netflix series. We think at that very human level. And spirit often is an afterthought, or talking to God is an afterthought. It's like, I'm in crisis. I should learn how to talk to my spirit. Oh my gosh, I'm in crisis. Maybe if I pray, that's going to help give me the answers. But I'm going to tell you, just like I tell my clients and my students, just like I would tell a nurse or any emergency personnel, like, that, like police officers or fire department. It's like, you're going to do, or military, you're going to do the drill when it's not a crisis. And you're going to do that drill over and over and over and over again. So when the fire starts burning down the building, as the fireman or firewoman, you're going to know exactly where on the fire truck to go, get those hoses hooked up, and exactly where to start putting out the fire. Just like the police officer or a nurse, you've trained in crisis. It's like, as a nurse, I had to train on how to revive someone after cardiac arrest. I have to be able to name all the steps. I would be tested over and over and over again, so that when your loved one was in my care and they stopped breathing or their heart stopped beating, I didn't have to think twice. Your spiritual development, I just can't stress this enough, is the same way. You want to meditate. You want to talk to your higher self again and again and again, and you're like, nothing's coming. My higher self's not talking to me. Practice again and again and again to cultivate that skill So when it is a crisis, when you really need that answer from your own inner authority, you don't have to, you've already cultivated it. You know how to do it. So I want to stress that there. So spirit as an afterthought. So this is the analogy. I love this analogy that I'm going to share with you. It's like your body is your car, and for most of us, our mind is in the driver's seat, and our mind has a death grip on the steering wheel, and our mind is just driving down the road as quickly as it can, taking twists and turns, and it's going the direction it wants to go. It thinks it needs to go, and it's intentional going, and you've got your spirit. Hopefully your spirit's at least in the back seat of your car. But how many of you have driven with backseat drivers, and that backseat driver says, I think maybe you should slow down a little bit. I think I would feel a lot better if you'd give a little more distance between you and the car in front of you. I think we should take this exit here. Maybe you should slow down. Maybe you should stop. I think we should go home. And how often do we tell the backseat driver, I've got this, I know what I'm doing, I've been driving a long time. This is exactly in the third dimensional world and the fifth dimensional world, where we are allowing our third chakra to drive our mind, to drive our car. And so I want you to kind of go through a little practice where you could close your eyes and see, is your mind in the driver's seat? Imagine and play with your mind getting out of the driver's seat, your spirit getting out of the back seat, moving into the front seat. This is what you want to be cultivating as you're learning how to power up in this third dimensional world. Your spirit must be in the driver's seat of your car. And often your mind is going to say, get out. I mean, how many of you have done that? Get out, get out. I'm driving. It's the same with the mind. The mind's going to put up a battle because the mind needs to feel valued. We're built on a society that values the mind above everything else. So play with that image of, am I in the driver's seat? Is my mind or my spirit in the driver's seat of the car? So I just kind of want to talk about, just as I try to wrap up, because I'm realizing, oh my gosh, I am, boy, I've kind of, I'm losing my sheet of paper, sorry, and I don't want to start the video again. So the first thing that you want to do to be able to power up is that you want to be able to ground yourself, you want to be able to run your energy, and you want to be able to meditate. So you've heard me say that. As a psychic medium, this is one of the things we have to cultivate. Powering up is expanding your light. So you want to keep your aura around your body, but you want to expand your light to remember that you are one with everything and everyone. Powering up comes from your third chakra. Your third chakra, if you take your hands, is located between the navel and the diaphragm area. That is your third chakra. It's also called the solar plexus. It's also called the power center. You need this to be able to power up from the third dimensional world to the fifth dimensional world. The next step is you want to be able to raise your self-esteem. Your third chakra is your spiritual library that teaches you how to work with power, not in a manipulative, taking it from other people or giving it to other people way, but powering up and being resourced by your spirit. So it's about how to work with healthy power, how to set healthy boundaries, and even recognize a boundary. Setting a boundary with yourself so that you don't always have those destructive behaviors. It's like, okay, I'm going to set a boundary and not eat this second piece of cake. I've been sober for 30 days and I'm going to set a boundary and I'm not going to go out and have that drink or have that drug or go gamble or have sex. You know, it's like setting boundaries with self-destructive behaviors. So that's setting boundaries with yourself, but setting boundaries with other people who may have destructive behaviors when you're around them or they're crossing the line. So it's about power, self-esteem, and illuminating your own soul's light throughout your life. And so a lot of times we use our physical body to kind of power through and move, but we want to draw upon our soul's power to illuminate through all aspects of our life. So do things in your life that's going to help raise your self-esteem, going to help you to feel better. Surround yourself with people who think you're special just the way you are. Let yourself know you think you're special just the way you are. This activates the frequency of your third chakra. I talked about setting boundaries. Every time you set boundaries, read books about boundaries. A lot of times we don't even know what a boundary is, especially if you were raised in a home where boundaries were crossed all the time. Go get a book so that you can really understand what a boundary is. This will help activate the frequency of your third chakra. You heard me say exercise. I think I said this in another video, but exercise vigorously. This gets your heart rate up. You want to break a sweat. Your third chakra is about power. It doesn't want to be this Ferrari that you drive like a one-speed bicycle. It's like you're like a Ferrari. It wants to be driven like a Ferrari. So it's like, do that exercise. It's just kind of blow off some of that clogged energy out of your third chakra. Helps blow out the stuck pipes. Again, activate your third chakra to the higher frequency. Notice if you're giving your power away to somebody else and stop it. Notice if you're taking energy from somebody else and stop it. Just by that act, guess what it does? It activates your third chakra. Correct the behaviors of the old patterns. It starts with one step, just one step. Your energy field is very forgiving. It knows your intention. I want to get better. I don't want to exchange energy with anybody else anymore. I want a resource from myself. Ask your spirit to help you do that. Meditate to draw upon the light of your own soul to fill up your third chakra. Notice if it's filling up. Is it depleting somewhere? Do you have a hole somewhere in your energy field? Are you losing it to somebody else? I mean, notice, is it going down your grounding and your third chakra can't hold it? Well, then you might want to get an energy treatment or meditate longer, get an acupuncture treatment, find some ways to help heal your third chakra. And then powering up. When I talked about psychic mediums, I have to power up really at high levels, almost beyond the fifth dimension when I'm doing a mediumship reading, so that your loved one can easily come into the frequency here on earth, because the frequency here on earth is heavy and dense. So when your loved one, your mother, your grandmother, grandfather, father, brother, husband, wife, children are on the other side, for a medium, we need to help make it easier for that soul to come in to communicate. That's called powering up. So there's a really great meditation that's called Powering Up that I love, and I will share the link. I can't remember the woman's name, but I listen to it often, and it's about really connecting with all the dimensions with your own soul's light so that you can maintain that power even in the midst of chaos and crisis and really heavy, heavy things that are happening here on the earth. And I think that's about it. So I think how I want to leave this is, remember I said you want to prepare, you want to practice powering up when you don't really need it, so that when you do really need that capacity to power up to the next frequency when we have a major shift on the earth. You already know how to do it. You've been practicing a long time, and many of you are so ready for this change. I being one of them, I've waited a long time dragging myself through the mud of life, and I'm super excited about the lightness that's coming in. So, powering up in the third dimensional world, I hope you learned something new today. I know that some of you did, and I appreciate all of your comments. If you like these energy tips when I'm talking about just how dynamic you are as a human being and a human energy field, click the subscribe button, and I'll see you all again next week. Take care.